With no door to slam, he settled for crossing his arms over his chest. "Come back any time, Lars," I said pleasantly, "but don't bring him, no matter how much he offers you to cart his useless ass." "No, sir, Mr. James," Lars said, and off they went. I turned to Henry. "Would you have stuck him with that pitchfork?" "Yes, sir." Made him squeal. Then, unsmiling, he went back into the barn. But he wasn't always unsmiling that summer, and Shannon Cottery was the reason why. He saw a lot of her, more of her than was good for either of them, that I found out in the fall. She began coming to the house on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, long-skirted and neatly bonneted, toting a side sack loaded with good things to eat. She said she knew what men cook as though she were 30 instead of just 15, and said she intended to see we had at least 2 decent suppers a week. And although I had only one of her mother's casseroles for comparison, I'd have to say that even at 15 she was the superior cook. Henry and I just threw steaks in a skillet on the stove. She had a way of seasoning that made plain old chew meat delicious. She brought fresh vegetables in her side sack, not just carrots and peas but exotic, to us, things like asparagus and fat green beans she cooked with pearl onions and bacon. There was even dessert. I can close my eyes in this shabby hotel room and smell her pastry. I can see her standing at the kitchen counter with her bottom swaying as she beat eggs or whipped cream. Generous was the word for Shannon, of hip, of bust, of heart. She was gentle with Henry, and she cared for him. That made me care for her. Only that's too thin, reader. I loved her, and we both loved Henry. After those Tuesday and Thursday dinners, I'd insist on doing the washing up and send them out on the porch. Sometimes I heard them murmuring to each other, and would peek out to see them sitting side by side in the wicker chairs, looking out at Westfield and holding hands like an old married couple. Other times I spied them kissing, and there was nothing of the old married couple about that at all. There was a sweet urgency to those kisses that belongs only to the very young, and I stole away with my heart aching. One hot Tuesday afternoon she came early. Her father was out in our north field on his harvester, Henry riding with him, a little crew of Indians from the Shoshone Reservation in Lime Bisca walking along behind. And behind them, Old Pie driving the gather truck. Shannon asked for a dipper of cold water, which I was glad to provide. She stood there on the shady side of the house, looking impossibly cool in a voluminous dress that covered her from throat to shin and shoulder to wrist, a Quaker dress, almost. Her manner was grave, perhaps even scared, and for a moment I was scared myself. He's told her, I thought. That turned out not to be true. Except, in a way, it was. Mr. James, is Henry sick? Sick? Why, no. Healthy as a horse, I'd say. And eats like one, too. You've seen that for yourself. Although I think even a man who was sick would have trouble saying no to your cooking, Shannon. That earned me a smile, but it was of the distracted variety. He's different this summer. I always used to know what he was thinking, but now I don't. He broods. Does he? I asked, too heartily. You haven't seen it? No, ma'am. I had. He seems like his old self to me. But he cares for you an awful lot, Sean. Maybe what looks like brooding to you feels like the lovesicks to him. I thought that would get me a real smile, but no. She touched my wrist. Her hand was cool from the dipper handle. I've thought of that, but... The rest she blurted out. Mr. James, if he was sweet on someone else, one of the girls from school, you'd tell me, wouldn't you? You wouldn't try to spare my feelings? I laughed at that, and I could see her pretty face lighten with relief. Sean, listen to me. Because I am your friend. Summer's always a hard-working time, and with Arlette gone, Hank and I have been busier than one-armed paper hangers.